In the vast, sun-baked expanse of a Texas ranch where the horizon stretched like an unbroken promise, Marcus Thompson lived a life carved from hard work and quiet determination. But shadows lurked in the form of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a self-appointed regime that patrolled the outskirts with the fervor of old-world overseers. For months, their so-called cops, beefy men in pickup trucks emblazoned with HOA badges, had targeted Marcus's mailbox, a simple wooden post at the edge of his property. Time and again, the crunch of tires on gravel would echo through the night, followed by the splintering crack of wood as they rammed it down. Why? Marcus was black in a community that whispered about fitting in, where his presence alone seemed to stir unease among the mostly white board members. Each destruction felt like a deliberate erasure, a message scrawled in the dust. You don't belong here. The first time, Marcus dismissed it as an accident, rebuilding the mailbox with his calloused hands under the relentless sun. But when it happened again, and then a third time, the pattern emerged like a venomous snake in the grass. Surveillance footage from his hidden camera captured the gleeful grins of the drivers as they accelerated, their laughter muffled but unmistakable. Marcus's heart pounded with a mix of rage and helplessness. Rage at the blatant racism veiled as enforcement. Helplessness because complaints to the HOA fell on deaf ears, dismissed with smirks and form letters. He knew this wasn't just about a mailbox. It was about reminding him of his place in a world that still clung to invisible hierarchies. As the incidents mounted, Marcus's sleep grew fitful, his mind racing with questions. How far would they go, and what could one man do against a system designed to break him? Little did they know, Marcus was no stranger to resilience, forged in the fires of his ancestors' struggles. He began to plot, his eyes narrowing against the setting sun, envisioning a counterstrike that would turn their aggression against them. The air grew thick with anticipation as Marcus gathered materials in secret, his ranch workshop becoming a sanctuary of quiet rebellion. The HOA cops continued their patrols, oblivious to the storm brewing. Viewers, imagine the tension building like a coiled spring. Would Marcus's ingenuity prevail, or would the injustice crush him further? Stick around as we dive deeper into this tale of defiance against racial prejudice, where one man's stand echoes the cries of many. Marcus Thompson had inherited the ranch from his grandfather, a man who had toiled under Jim Crow laws to claim a piece of land that no one else wanted. It was 50 acres of rolling hills, dotted with cattle and wildflowers on the fringes of Willow Creek, a suburban enclave that had expanded greedily over the years. The HOA, formed by affluent newcomers, imposed rules that felt like chains. Uniform fences, approved paint colors, and, yes, standardized mailboxes. Marcus's old wooden one, handcrafted by his grandfather, didn't match their glossy catalog models. But that wasn't the real issue. Whispers at community meetings revealed the truth. Comments about those people moving in, concerns over property values dropping because of diversity. Marcus, with his dark skin and unyielding pride, became the scapegoat. He was a quiet giant, of a man in his mid-40s, with broad shoulders from years of ranching and a gaze that held the weight of history. Mornings started with coffee on the porch, watching the sunrise paint the fields gold, but lately those moments were tainted by dread. The first mailbox destruction came after a heated HOA meeting where Marcus questioned a new fee structure that disproportionately affected smaller landowners like him. That night, the roar of an engine shattered the peace, and by morning, his mailbox lay in splinters. He reported it to the local sheriff, but the response was a shrug. Probably kids joyriding. Marcus knew better. The tire tracks matched the HOA's patrol vehicles. Rebuilding became a ritual of defiance. Each time he drove to the hardware store, selected sturdy posts, and hammered them in deeper. But the attacks escalated. The second incident left tire marks scarring his driveway, and the third scattered mail across the road like discarded dreams. Bills, letters from family, even a birthday card from his niece. Marcus's isolation deepened. Neighbors averted their eyes, fearing association with the troublemaker. He felt the sting of betrayal, remembering stories from his youth about redlining and sundown towns. This was modern-day segregation, wrapped in bylaws and smiles. As weeks turned to months, Marcus's resolve hardened. He installed a discreet camera capturing the culprits. 2 HOA enforcers, Bob and Carl, known for their aggressive tactics. Bob, the ringleader, was a retired cop with a beer gut and a badge complex, while Carl tagged along like a shadow. Their faces twisted in malice during the acts, confirming Marcus's suspicions. This was personal, fueled by racial animus. He gathered evidence, but legal advice revealed the HOA's ironclad protections. Suing would drain his savings. Instead, inspiration struck during a sleepless night. What if he turned their weapon against them? He researched indestructible designs online, sketching plans for a mailbox that looked ordinary but hid a fortress within. Concrete-filled base, reinforced steel core, disguised as weathered wood. The cost would be high, but so was his dignity. As he ordered supplies, a fire ignited in his chest. This wasn't just repair, it was reclamation. The setup was complete. Now, the waiting game began, tension simmering like heat waves off the asphalt. The days blurred into a haze of anticipation and paranoia for Marcus. He patrolled his own land more vigilantly, his truck rumbling along the fence lines as he checked for signs of intrusion. The HOA's presence grew bolder. Notices arrived in his remaining mail, citing vague violations like unauthorized structures for his barn, which had stood for decades. Whispers from a sympathetic neighbor revealed board meetings where Bob boasted about keeping the neighborhood clean. Code words that cut like knives. Marcus's skin prickled with anger, memories flooding back of his grandfather's tales, being denied loans, facing cross-burnings, all for daring to own land. This was the same poison, repackaged for the 21st century. One evening, as dusk painted, the sky in bruised purples, Marcus spotted the patrol truck idling nearby. His heart raced. Was this the night? He retreated to his workshop, double-checking the new mailbox. It was a masterpiece of deception. Exterior mimicking the old wooden one, but inside, a concrete pillar anchored deep into the earth, wrapped in rebar for unyielding strength. He installed it under cover of darkness, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the cool air. The camera was repositioned for a perfect view, its red light a silent sentinel. The attacks didn't cease. A week later, the familiar engine growl approached. Marcus watched from his window, breath held as Bob's truck accelerated toward the mailbox. The impact was thunderous. Wood splintered on the surface, but the core held firm. The truck's bumper crumpled like tin foil, headlights shattering in a spray of glass. Bob leaped out, cursing, his face a mask of shock and pain as he clutched his steering wheel-dented dash. Carl followed, staring in disbelief at the unscathed post. Marcus's pulse thundered. This was the turning point, but the battle wasn't over. Retaliation came swiftly. The HOA issued fines for damaging community property, claiming the mailbox was a hazard. Marcus countered with his footage, sharing it anonymously online where it sparked outrage. Comments poured in. Classic racism. HOA tyrants exposed. The emotional toll mounted. Marcus's nights filled with nightmares of escalation. His family worried from afar. He fortified his ranch further, installing motion lights and alarms, each addition a layer of armor against the growing hostility. As support grew, so did the opposition. Bob rallied allies, spreading rumors that Marcus was trouble, leading to anonymous threats scrawled on his gate. The injustice burned deeper. Why must he fight so hard for peace? Tension peaked during a community gathering, where veiled accusations flew, eyes darting to Marcus like accusations. He stood tall, evidence in hand, but the air crackled with unspoken hatred. The rising stakes left him isolated yet empowered, the ranch a fortress in a war of wills. The confrontation erupted on a stormy afternoon, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Marcus had just returned from town when Bob's truck screeched to a halt at his driveway. This time, it wasn't a solo raid. Carl and 2 other HOA members flanked him, tools in hand, intent on dismantling the illegal mailbox themselves. Rain lashed down, turning the ground to mud, as Bob approached with a sledgehammer, his face contorted in fury. "This ends now, boy," he snarled under his breath, the racial slur implied in his tone. Marcus stepped out, phone recording, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. The group advanced, hammers raised, but Marcus held his ground, the mailbox standing defiant between them. As Bob swung first, the hammer rebounded off the hidden steel with a clang that vibrated through the air, jarring his arms. Shock rippled across their faces. Carl tried next, his crowbar bending uselessly. The storm intensified, lightning illuminating. Their failed attempts, each strike echoing Marcus's unyielding spirit. Panic set in as the men realized the trap. Bob, red-faced, lunged at the base with a shovel, but the concrete anchor held like ancient roots. Mud splattered, tools slipped, and frustration boiled over into shouts. Marcus watched, heart pounding, as years of suppressed rage surfaced. These men represented every slight, every barrier he'd faced. A final, desperate ram from Bob's truck ended in disaster. The vehicle lurched forward, but the mailbox didn't budge. Metal groaned, the front axle snapping with a sickening crack. The truck listed sideways, steam hissing from the engine in the downpour. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus had called the real police. As officers arrived, the scene unfolded in chaos. HOA men scrambling for excuses, evidence of vandalism plain. Bob's authority crumbled, his bluster silenced by handcuffs for property damage and trespassing. The climax crested in that moment, rain washing away the veneer of power, revealing the raw ugliness of prejudice. Marcus stood soaked but unbroken, the storm mirroring the catharsis in his soul. With the arrests, the tide turned irrevocably. The real police reviewed Marcus's footage, charging Bob and Carl with multiple counts of vandalism and harassment. The HOA board, facing backlash from the viral video, dissolved the COP program amid public outcry. Investigations uncovered emails, laced with racist undertones, leading to resignations and lawsuits from other marginalized residents. Marcus's ranch, once a target, became a symbol of resistance. Neighbors who had stayed silent now offered apologies and support, some even helping repair minor damages from the storm. Marcus rebuilt his life piece by piece. The fines were dropped and he received compensation for the repeated destructions, enough to upgrade his ranch equipment and donate to civil rights organizations. The emotional scars lingered, but they fueled his advocacy. He spoke at local forums about subtle racism in communities, turning pain into purpose. His family visited more, proud of his stand, and the ranch bloomed anew under clearer skies. In the quiet evenings, Marcus sat on his porch, mailbox standing proud, a testament to ingenuity over intolerance. This story, inspired by real accounts of HOA abuses tinted with racial bias, reminds us that injustice thrives in silence. But when one person pushes back with clever resolve, it can dismantle systems of oppression. Viewers, reflect. How many mailboxes in your life need fortifying? Stand firm, challenge the shadows, and let your actions echo for generations. What would you do in Marcus's boots? Share below and subscribe for more tales of triumph over adversity.